Milwaukee mother shot to death in a bar parking lot. Her family says she was an innocent bystander. It happened early Sunday morning outside Bar 107 near 107th and Granville on the city's northwest side. 20 News' Nick Bohr is there live tonight. Nick, someone shot both her and her sister.
And her family says that she was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time here at this bar with her sister. She said they tell us that she came outside of the bar and got into the car when they were both shot right outside here. Scene video shows a smashed vehicle, its airbags deployed outside Bar 107 early Sunday morning at 107th and Granville Road. 33-year-old Brenisha Bree Butcher was killed by the gunfire in the parking lot. Her 30-year-old sister, also in the car, was also shot but survived. They both just left Bar 107 and drove off after the shooting, but crashed across the street. Butcher was the mother of 4 kids, ranging in age from 2 to 17.
My deepest condolences goes out to them for the loss that they've suffered as a result.
The walls of Bar 107, where weekend revelry masks the tension building inside. It's 1:47 a.m. on March 16th, 2025, a time when most mothers of 4 would be home asleep. But Brenisha Bree Butcher, 33, sits beside her sister Brittany in the dimly lit corner, celebrating a rare night out. Neither woman notices the argument erupting near the bar's entrance. Neither realizes these are their final moments of normalcy. Everyone out. Security guards push through the crowd, voices raised above the music that cuts abruptly to silence. Patrons spill into the parking lot, confusion spreading across faces illuminated by harsh security lights. Bree and Brittany make their way to their white Volkswagen, innocent bystanders caught in someone else's drama. They sit in the car, waiting for the chaos to subside before driving home. A gray Nissan SUV idles nearby. Words exchange between occupants of both vehicles. Seemingly casual conversation amid the disrupted night. Then, a flash from the Nissan's passenger window. The crack of gunshots shatters the night air. The Volkswagen lurches forward, crashing into a parked car across the street. Inside, Bree slumps against the steering wheel, life draining from her body. Beside her, Brittany screams through her own pain, wounded but alive. By morning, 4 children will wake to learn their mother isn't coming home. A fiancé will collapse under grief's weight. A daycare business will stand empty, its owner's dreams extinguished. This is not just a story about bullets fired in darkness. It's about a mother's life cut short, about children left behind, about a community forced to confront the consequences of unchecked violence, and about how quickly ordinary moments can transform into tragedy when guns enter the equation. Welcome to the Dark Trace Crime Stories. Whether you're returning or joining us for the first time, we're glad you're here. If you find value in stories that shine a light on justice and the lives behind the headlines, please consider supporting the channel by subscribing, liking this video, and sharing it with others. Milwaukee residents knew her simply as Bree, a 33-year-old mother whose warm smile greeted parents dropping children at her newly established daycare. Behind that professional facade was a woman juggling the demands of raising 4 children while building a business from scratch. Born and raised in Milwaukee's Northwest Side, Brenisha Butcher embodied determination. Friends described her as someone who never had time for drama. Her focus remained squarely on creating stability for her children, aged 2, 8, 12, and 17. The age span of her children meant Bree had spent nearly 2 decades in the demanding role of motherhood, learning and adapting as each child brought new challenges and joys. She wanted her kids to have opportunities she didn't have growing up, explained her mother during a family gathering after the funeral. Everything Bree did was about giving them a better future. That future-focused mindset led Bree to open her daycare business in late 2024. The venture represented both practical necessity and personal passion, a way to earn income while remaining present for her youngest child. Parents quickly recognized Bree's natural gift with children. Her daycare wasn't merely a child care facility, but a place where neighborhood kids found structure, affection, and educational activities tailored to their development. "My daughter would wake up asking if today was a Bree day," recalled one parent. That's how much the children loved being there. Home videos shared by family members reveal Bree's parenting style, patient yet firm, playful yet instructive. In one clip, she helps her 8-year-old with homework, breaking down math problems with creative analogies. In another, she dances in the kitchen with her toddler perched on her hip while simultaneously directing her teenagers to set the table for dinner. Her sister Brittany, who survived the shooting that claimed Bree's life, described their relationship as beyond sisters. "We were best friends." The pair spoke daily, with Brittany often helping at the daycare during busy periods. "Bree was my compass," Brittany explained through tears at the memorial service. She always knew the right direction for herself and everyone around her. Romance had recently re-entered Bree's life as well. Her fiancé, who had proposed just 3 months before her death, described their relationship as built on respect and shared dreams. They had planned a small wedding for the following year, with Bree's children playing central roles in the ceremony. "She wanted to show them what healthy love looked like," he explained, voice breaking. "Everything she did was teaching them something." Neighbors on Bree Street noted her consistent presence, supervising children playing outside, organizing community cleanups, or simply checking in on elderly residents. She wasn't just raising her kids, she was helping raise the neighborhood, one longtime resident observed. Financial stability didn't come easily. Bree worked multiple jobs before launching her daycare, sometimes juggling retail positions with weekend gig work. Former coworkers described her as reliable to a fault, the employee who covered shifts when others called out, who stayed late without complaint, who remembered customers' names and stories. Her oldest child, now 17, inherited this work ethic. "Mom always said being tired isn't an excuse for doing less than your best," the teenager shared at the memorial service. "She showed us that every day." The daycare represented Bree's first step toward true independence, a business built on her terms that would eventually provide financial security for her family. She had recently completed additional certification courses, planning to expand services to include after-school programs for older children. The morning after her death, parents arrived at the daycare unaware of the tragedy, finding locked doors and unanswered calls. The news spread quickly through text messages and tearful conversations on the sidewalk. One mother described it as losing family, not just a child care provider. In the weeks following her death, community members established a memorial fund for Bree's children. Local daycare owners volunteered to accommodate families left without childcare. Her fiancé stepped forward to help raise her younger children, working with their biological fathers to maintain stability. The void left by Bree's absence extends beyond her immediate family. It reaches into classrooms where teachers note her children's struggle to focus, into neighborhood gatherings where her organizing presence is missed, and into the lives of dozens of children who once started their days in her care. Bree wasn't famous, her mother reflected. She didn't have wealth or power, but she had impact. Every life she touched is different because she was here, and different now because she's gone. March 15, 2025, began as an ordinary Saturday for Bree Butcher. After a week of managing her daycare and tending to her children's needs, she accepted her sister Brittany's invitation for a night out. Their destination, Bar 107, located at the intersection of 107th Street and Granville Road in Milwaukee's far northwest side. She deserved one night to herself, Brittany would later tell investigators. One night without being somebody's mom, somebody's fiancé, somebody's boss. Just Bree. The sisters arrived at Bar 107 around 11:30 p.m. Security footage captured them entering the establishment, Bree wearing jeans and a blue blouse, her hair pulled back in a neat ponytail. Brittany, dressed similarly but in red, walked close beside her. Neither woman had any connection to the violence that would later erupt. Bar 107 had earned a troubling reputation over the years. Since 2018, the establishment had been disciplined 6 times by city authorities for various infractions. In 2022, following a fatal shooting in the parking lot, the bar received a 30-day license suspension. Despite these sanctions, problems persisted. Residents had filed complaints as recently as December 2024, just 3 months before Bree's final visit. Inside, the sisters found a typical Saturday night crowd. Patrons clustered around the bar, occupied tables, and moved across the dance floor. Witnesses later confirmed that Bree and Brittany kept to themselves, occasionally dancing, but primarily enjoying each other's company at a small table near the back wall. They weren't involved with anyone else, one witness stated. They were just sisters having a good time together. Around 1:30 a.m. on March 16th, the atmosphere shifted. Security cameras captured a heated exchange between 2 groups near the front entrance. What began as raised voices quickly escalated to pushing and shoving. Bar staff attempted to separate the parties, but the situation continued to deteriorate. At 1:42 a.m., security made the decision to clear the establishment. "Everyone out," guards shouted, moving through the crowd and directing patrons toward the exit. The music stopped abruptly, replaced by confused voices and protests from those uninvolved in the altercation. Bree and Brittany, caught in the sudden evacuation, gathered their belongings and moved with the crowd toward the door. Multiple witnesses confirmed they had no connection to the original dispute. They were simply bystanders, forced to end their night early because of others' actions. The parking lot outside Bar 107 became chaotic as patrons spilled out into the cool March air. Some continued arguments that had begun inside. Others, like Bree and Brittany, simply wanted to leave safely. The sisters made their way to their white Volkswagen, parked in the lot behind the establishment. Security footage from exterior cameras shows the sisters entering their vehicle at 1:47 a.m. Bree took the driver's seat, while Brittany sat beside her in the passenger seat. The car remained stationary, likely as they discussed their next move or waited for the crowd to disperse before attempting to exit the congested parking area. Parked nearby was a gray Nissan SUV. The vehicles were positioned such that the Volkswagen was directly behind the Nissan. As both cars sat with engines running, occupants of the vehicles appeared to exchange words through open windows. Witnesses later described this interaction as seemingly casual, not immediately hostile. April Miller, 49, was not initially in the Nissan. Security footage shows her approaching the vehicle and entering the front passenger seat at approximately 1:51 a.m. What happened in the next 2 minutes would forever alter the lives of everyone connected to Bree Butcher. At 1:53 a.m., multiple witnesses observed Miller produce a handgun and point it toward the Volkswagen. Without apparent provocation, she fired several shots directly at the sisters' vehicle. The bullets shattered the driver's side window, striking Bree multiple times in the upper body. Brittany was also hit, but not fatally. The impact of the shooting caused immediate chaos. Bree, mortally wounded and losing consciousness, lost control of the vehicle. The Volkswagen lurched forward, crossing the parking lot and colliding with a parked car across the street from the bar. The airbags deployed upon impact. Patrons scattered at the sound of gunshots. The Nissan containing Miller quickly left the scene, driving away from the bar at high speed. Several bystanders approached the crashed Volkswagen, attempting to help the sisters inside. First responders arrived at 2:01 a.m., responding to multiple 911 calls reporting shots fired and a vehicle collision. They found Bree unresponsive in the driver's seat, suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. Despite immediate medical intervention, she was pronounced dead at the scene. Brittany, conscious but seriously injured, was transported to a nearby hospital for emergency treatment. Milwaukee Police Department officers secured the area, establishing a perimeter around both the crash site and Bar 107's parking lot. Detectives began interviewing witnesses immediately, while crime scene technicians collected evidence including shell casings found near where the Nissan had been parked. By sunrise, investigators had gathered substantial information about the shooter. Multiple witnesses identified April Miller, providing consistent descriptions of her appearance and actions. Surveillance footage clearly showed her entering the Nissan and the subsequent shooting. Shell casings recovered from the scene would later match a firearm registered to Miller. As morning broke over Milwaukee, the news of Bree's death began to spread. Her fiancé, awakened by a 4:30 a.m. phone call from police, faced the devastating task of gathering her children to deliver the news that their mother would never come home. Brittany, recovering in the hospital, provided a formal statement identifying Miller as the shooter. The owner of Bar 107, confronted with yet another violent incident at his establishment, made no public statement that day. However, within a week, he would voluntarily surrender his liquor license at City Hall, effectively closing the business permanently. For 2 days, April Miller remained at large. Police launched an intensive search, distributing her photo to media outlets and alerting neighboring jurisdictions. On March 18th, acting on a tip from a hotel employee, officers located and arrested Miller in a hotel room approximately 15 miles from a shooting scene. The weapon believed to have been used in the shooting was recovered during her arrest. As Miller was taken into custody, Bree's family began planning a funeral for a 33-year-old mother whose only mistake was being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
A lot of things go unsolved, but she's never coming back.
New charges bring little solace to the family of a woman shot and killed outside of a Milwaukee nightclub. Brenisha Bree and her sister Brittany were leaving Bar 107 Sunday morning when police say another woman shot into their car multiple times. Brittany survived, but according to new documents, investigators believe it may have been a case of mistaken identity. Their grieving families tell our Miriam McCarr the new charges won't ease their pain tonight.
She's a very funny person, loving person.
That's how Brenisha Bree describes her mom.
Smart. She was really smart. And yeah, she was just fun to be around. Her vibe was just contagious.
33-year-old Brenisha Bree was picking up her 30-year-old sister Brittany early Sunday morning from Bar 107 in Milwaukee when a woman fired shots into their car. Those bullets killing Brenisha and seriously injuring Brittany, who is still in the hospital recovering.
She's taking it hard, and I only can imagine she's taking it just as bad as we are.
Brenisha's fiancé, Terry Anderson, says their family is now grieving the mother of his children while working to help Brittany heal.
A lot of people is in and out every day, checking up on her well-being.
The manhunt for Bree Butcher's killer ended just 48 hours after the shooting. Acting on a tip from an alert hotel employee, Milwaukee police officers surrounded a budget hotel room approximately 15 miles from Bar 107 on the afternoon of March 18th. Inside, they found April Miller, 49, who surrendered without resistance. Officers recovered a 9mm handgun from the hotel room, which preliminary ballistics testing has linked to shell casings found at the shooting scene. Miller had checked into the hotel under a false name, paying cash for the room. Actions prosecutors later cited as evidence of her consciousness of guilt. The defendant made deliberate attempts to evade law enforcement, Assistant District Attorney Marcus Johnson stated during Miller's initial court appearance. She fled the scene immediately after firing multiple shots, disposed of her cell phone to avoid tracking, and used an alias when securing lodging. Miller's booking photo, released to the media following her arrest, shows a middle-aged woman with shoulder-length brown hair and a blank expression. Standing 5 feet 4 inches and weighing approximately 160 pounds, she bears little physical resemblance to the stereotypical violent offender often portrayed in media coverage. Prior to the shooting, Miller had maintained a relatively low profile in Milwaukee. Public records indicate she worked as an administrative assistant at a local insurance office for the past 7 years. Her criminal history is sparse, consisting of a disorderly conduct charge from 2014 that resulted in probation and a driving while intoxicated offense from 2016. Neighbors from Miller's apartment complex expressed shock upon learning of her arrest. She was quiet, kept to herself. One resident told local reporters, "I'd see her walking her dog or getting her mail, but she wasn't social. Nothing about her seemed violent or aggressive." Miller made her initial court appearance on March 19th, where she was formally charged with first-degree reckless homicide in Bree's death and first-degree reckless injury for the wounds inflicted on Brittany Butcher. Wisconsin statutes define these charges as showing utter disregard for human life, a standard prosecutors believe is met by firing multiple shots into an occupied vehicle. The judge set bail at $300,000 cash, citing both the severity of the charges and Miller's apparent attempt to evade capture. Unable to post this amount, Miller remains in custody at the Milwaukee County Jail as her case proceeds through the court system. During preliminary hearings in April, prosecutors outlined their case against Miller. Multiple witnesses identified her as the shooter from photo lineups conducted in the days following the incident. Surveillance footage from Bar 107's exterior cameras captured Miller entering the passenger side of the Nissan SUV and moments later, extending her arm toward the Butcher sisters' vehicle before the shooting occurred. Miller's defense attorney, Victoria Lawson, has suggested the shooting occurred during chaotic circumstances. This was a crowded parking lot after a bar evacuation, Lawson stated outside the courthouse. "My client felt threatened in that environment. This case is far more complex than the prosecution has portrayed." Prosecutors have countered this narrative by emphasizing that neither Bree nor Brittany Butcher had any connection to Miller or to the initial altercation inside the bar. These were innocent bystanders who posed no threat to anyone, Assistant DA Johnson maintained. The defendant's actions were both reckless and entirely unjustified. A key element of the prosecution's case involves establishing motive. Investigators believe Miller may have mistakenly identified the Butcher sisters as being associated with individuals she had argued with earlier inside Bar 107. This theory of misidentification explains why Miller would target two women who had no prior connection to her. Brittany Butcher, still recovering from her injuries, has attended each preliminary hearing, often accompanied by Bree's fiancé and older children. "I need to be here for my sister," she told reporters outside the courthouse. "Bree can't speak for herself anymore, so I have to be." For Bree's children, each court date reopens wounds barely beginning to heal. Her oldest child attends proceedings whenever possible, often taking notes and consulting with prosecutors afterward. "Mom always taught us to face difficult things," the teenager explained. "Being here is hard, but it's how I honor her." The case is currently in the discovery phase, with both prosecution and defense exchanging evidence and witness statements. A status conference scheduled for early June will likely determine the timeline for further proceedings, including potential preliminary hearing dates. If convicted on all charges, Miller faces up to 85 years in Wisconsin State Prison. She has entered a plea of not guilty to both counts. News of Brenisha Bree Butcher's death spread rapidly through Milwaukee's northwest side. By Monday morning, a makeshift memorial appeared outside Bar 107. Flowers, candles, and handwritten notes clustered near the spot where her Volkswagen had crashed. Parents from her daycare gathered there, many bringing their children who placed drawings and stuffed animals among the tributes. "We're here because our children need to say goodbye," explained one mother, holding her 4-year-old's hand. "They don't understand why Miss Bree isn't there anymore." The Milwaukee Police Department held a press conference that Monday afternoon. The police chief addressed reporters with a grim expression, confirming details of the shooting while emphasizing that Bree and her sister had been innocent bystanders. "This was not a targeted attack on these women," the chief stated. "Ms. Butcher and her sister were simply in the wrong place when violence erupted. They had no connection to the initial altercation inside the establishment. As the investigation continued, public attention turned to Bar 107 itself. Records revealed a troubling pattern of violence stretching back years. Since 2018, the establishment had faced disciplinary action 6 separate times for various violations, including security failures and alcohol-related infractions. Most notably, in 2022, the bar had received a 30-day license suspension following another fatal shooting in the same parking lot. Despite this serious sanction, problems persisted. Residents had filed formal complaints as recently as December 2024, just 3 months before Bree's death, citing noise violations and concerns about patron behavior. Alderwoman Larissa Taylor, representing the district where Bar 107 operated, called an emergency community meeting 3 days after the shooting. More than 200 residents packed the local community center, many forced to stand along the walls when seating ran out. This establishment has been a problem for years, Taylor told the crowd, her voice rising with evident frustration. How many warnings does a business need? How many lives must be lost before we say enough is enough? Residents took turns at the microphone, sharing personal experiences with the bar. One elderly man described calling police multiple times about patrons urinating in his yard. A young mother explained how she no longer felt safe walking past the establishment with her children, even in daylight hours. A business owner from a neighboring shop detailed property damage from bar patrons. Every weekend, we clean up broken bottles, and sometimes worse, he said. We've been asking for help for years. The meeting grew heated when discussion turned to the city's responsibility. Many residents questioned why Bar 107 had been allowed to continue operating despite its troubled history. Others pointed to what they perceived as inadequate police presence in the area. If this happened in a wealthy neighborhood, that bar would have been shut down after the first incident, one resident asserted to applause from the crowd. City licensing officials attended the meeting, explaining the legal process for revoking a business license. They outlined previous disciplinary actions against Bar 107 and acknowledged the establishment had been under increased scrutiny in recent months. The process requires documentation and due process, explained the licensing committee representative. We can't simply close a business without following legal procedures. This explanation did little to satisfy the community's anger. As the meeting concluded, Alderwoman Taylor promised action, announcing her intention to request an emergency hearing of the licensing committee. This time will be different, she assured residents. This time, we have lost a mother for who was contributing positively to our community. The bar owner, who had not attended the community meeting, made his first public statement the following day through his attorney. The brief written statement expressed condolences to Bree's family, but maintained that the establishment had followed proper security protocols on the night of the shooting. Our security staff responded appropriately to the initial altercation by clearing the premises, the statement read. What happened afterward in the parking lot was beyond our control. This response further inflamed community sentiment. Protesters gathered outside the closed bar the next day, carrying signs with Bree's photo and demands for permanent closure. Local news crews captured footage of the demonstration, which remained peaceful but emotional as several of Bree's family members joined the crowd. Before the licensing committee could convene its emergency hearing, the owner of Bar 107 made an unexpected move. 8 days after Bree's death, he appeared at City Hall and voluntarily surrendered his liquor license, effectively closing the business permanently. While we maintain that our establishment followed proper procedures, we recognize that the community has lost confidence in our ability to provide a safe environment, his new statement read. Rather than fight this perception, we have chosen to close our doors. Community leaders cautiously welcomed this development, though many expressed frustration that it took a tragedy to achieve what years of complaints had not. Alderwoman Taylor called it a necessary but insufficient response and pledged to work with city officials to prevent similar establishments from developing the same pattern of violence. As Bar 107 signs were removed and windows boarded up, Bree's family focused on more immediate concerns, arranging her funeral, supporting her children, and attending court proceedings as April Miller faced charges for taking the life of a woman she had never met.
Killed inside.
I was expecting her to make it home to the kids.
While Terry Anderson mourns the loss of his fiancée, a mother to 4, someone brought this fundraising website to his attention. It's on a site called Funderwave and claims to be raising money for Bree's kids. It even has a photo of her children.
I recognized that they had the kids on there, and, they were just saying a lot of frivolous stuff that wasn't true.
The site claimed to have raised nearly $13,000 Wednesday and says Ellie Butcher organized it. Anderson has never heard of that person.
Kind of really made me mad, caused a lot of turmoil. I'm hoping nobody contribute to that page.
12 News looked closer at the website. Its homepage features different fundraisers and testimonials, including one from John Doe. When you click About Us, the site directs you to this page, including advertising for dating apps. It lists the address as 66 Road, Brooklyn Street in New York, and the map of its location shows a pin in the United Kingdom. 12 News tried calling the company's phone number.
Welcome to Verizon Wireless. Your call cannot be completed as dialed. Please hang up and redial the number.
Then we emailed the page asking for additional information about the fundraiser. Minutes later, the page disappeared.
In the quiet Milwaukee neighborhood, where Brenisha Bree Butcher once operated her daycare, a small garden now blooms. Parents whose children once spent their days under Bree's care planted flowers, installed a bench, and added a simple plaque. In memory of Bree Butcher, she nurtured growth in all she touched. This memorial garden represents just one facet of Bree's enduring legacy. 2 months after her death, the ripple effects of her absence continue to spread through her family, community, and beyond. My sister wasn't famous, Brittany Butcher explained during a recent community vigil. She didn't have wealth or power, but she had impact. Every life she touched is different because she was here, and different now because she's gone. That impact is perhaps most visible in the lives of her 4 children. Her oldest, now shouldering responsibilities beyond their years, has become an advocate against gun violence, speaking at 2 school assemblies about the real-world consequences of impulsive actions. The teenager recounted how their mother had always emphasized conflict resolution through communication rather than confrontation. Mom taught us that walking away isn't weakness, they told classmates. She said the strongest people are those who can control their emotions instead of letting emotions control them. Bree's fiancé has partnered with the children's biological fathers to maintain stability in their lives. The youngest, just 2 years old, still asks when mommy is coming home. Questions that leave adults struggling for appropriate answers. The family has sought grief counseling, creating space for each child to process their loss differently. Beyond her immediate family, Bree's absence created practical challenges for parents who relied on her daycare services. In response, 3 local child care providers collaborated to accommodate these families, ensuring no child was left without care. One provider even hired Bree's assistant, maintaining some continuity for the children who had formed attachments to her. Bree would have wanted the children taken care of, explained the assistant. That was always her priority, making sure kids felt safe and loved. The circumstances of Bree's death have sparked renewed conversations about gun violence in Milwaukee. In April, the City Council passed a resolution establishing a task force to review security requirements for establishments with liquor licenses. Alderwoman Larissa Taylor, who championed the measure, explicitly cited Bree's case as motivation. When someone like Brenisha Butcher, a mother, entrepreneur, and positive community member, can lose her life simply by being in the wrong place at the wrong time, we must acknowledge our system is broken, Taylor stated during council deliberations. Her death was preventable. The task force will examine several potential reforms, including enhanced security requirements for establishments with previous violations, mandatory surveillance systems covering parking areas, and stricter penalties for businesses that fail to maintain safe environments. While these measures come too late for Bree, they may prevent similar tragedies in the future. Local anti-violence organizations have incorporated Bree's story into their outreach programs, particularly those focused on conflict resolution. One group created wallet-sized cards featuring Bree's photo alongside the question, "Is this worth someone's life?" The cards list de-escalation techniques and resources for anger management. We're trying to make people pause before reaching for a weapon, explained the organization's director. When you put a face to potential consequences, a mother of 4 who was just out with her sister, it becomes harder to justify violence as a solution to momentary anger. Milwaukee's medical community has also responded. The trauma surgeon who treated Brittany Butcher joined with emergency room physicians to publish an open letter highlighting the healthcare burden of gun violence. They noted that for every fatality like Bree's, multiple survivors require extensive medical treatment and rehabilitation. The ripple effects extend far beyond the immediate victims, the letter stated. Families are traumatized, communities are destabilized, and healthcare resources are strained, all from incidents that are fundamentally preventable. Perhaps the most profound aspect of Bree's legacy lies in how ordinary her life was before that fatal night. She was engaged in high-risk activities. She wasn't in a dangerous relationship. She was involved in criminal behavior. She was simply a mother enjoying a rare night out with her sister, the kind of normal activity that should never end in tragedy. This ordinariness makes her death particularly resonant. It underscores how gun violence can touch anyone, anywhere, at any time. It challenges the comforting but false notion that violence only affects those who somehow invite it through their choices or circumstances. My sister's story matters because it could be anyone's story, Brittany emphasized during a recent interview. Bree did everything right. She worked hard. She raised her kids with love. She contributed to her community. And none of that protected her when someone chose violence over reason. As Milwaukee continues grappling with Bree's absence, her legacy evolves from personal tragedy to cautionary tale to catalyst for change. The garden bearing her name will bloom season after season, a living reminder of what was lost and what might yet grow from the soil of collective grief. If communities can transform outrage into action, ensuring Brenisha Bree Butcher did not die in vain. Brenisha Bree Butcher's story doesn't end with her death. Her legacy continues through her children, through community action, and through each of us who choose to learn from this tragedy. We've established the Bree Butcher Memorial Fund to support her 4 children and contribute to anti-violence initiatives in Milwaukee. Visit our website for information on how to donate or volunteer with organizations working to prevent similar tragedies. Additionally, if you know someone affected by gun violence, we've compiled resources for grief support and victim advocacy services. Remember to subscribe and activate notifications for our upcoming episode examining how other communities have successfully reduced violence around nightlife establishments. Together, we can honor Bree's memory by working towards safer communities for all.